Hey guys, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and I'm going to show you how to create a business plan for a retail business. This video is not going to be me showing you how to write every single word of a business plan, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go through and show you a typical outline or structure for a retail business plan, as well as highlight 5 key things you need to make sure your business plan covers if you hope to get approved for any funding with your business plan. So, who is Projection Hub? Projection Hub has helped more than 50,000 small businesses create financial projections for their business plans, for their business loan applications, for their pitch decks. We've helped many retail businesses create their financial projections. And before my time with Projection Hub, I actually spent 7 years as a loan officer for a small business loan agency. And so I had the pleasure of reviewing thousands of business plans for small businesses and startups, including many retail businesses, just like the business plan we're going to review today. So I helped them package those loan requests, get approved for funding, decline for funding in some cases. And so these 5 key points are largely going to be based on a lot of that experience and what I've seen that can make or break a loan application. So if at any point you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. That really helps the video reach more business owners like yourself. And feel free to subscribe as well. Not all of our content is about retail businesses, but we do release a lot of content just about owning a business, growing a business that you won't want to miss out. So without further ado, we will jump in. Okay, so first, why is your business plan important? Now, maybe that sounds cliche, or maybe it's going to be obvious, but the goal of your business plan is not to educate the potential lender or whoever's reading your business plan. It is to demonstrate that you have a specific path to success. You have a roadmap that has a high degree of likelihood of success and that you know what you're doing. So that's what we want to make sure we're going to cover here. And as you can see, we're going to scroll through this whole thing. I'm going to show you every section of the business plan. And then when those 5 key parts come up, I'm going to pause, drill down on those a little bit, and even show you some examples of how to do that. But at first glance, what you can see here in this table of contents in our sections is that it's only going to go up to 10 pages long. Now, contrary to popular belief, your business plan does not have to be 50 pages long to be good. Actually, I would argue the opposite. I would say that a 10 to 15 page business plan can be much more powerful if you're putting the right things in it. Because if it's much longer than that, then the highlights, the important details might get lost and all the extra stuff that isn't going to help a lender make a decision. So if you need to make a 50-page business plan for yourself in order to feel confident and like you're covering all your bases, definitely do that. That's a good exercise for you. But what you deliver to your lender needs to be a refined version. And you can build that refined version around what I'm gonna show you in this video. Make sure you include those things. But I just want to make sure that you realize that. Now you can obviously, financial projections are a big component. They're over half of the business plan. Now, I'm not saying that just because we're Projection Hub and we help with financial projections, but even when I was a lender, by far the most important part is the financial projections. That's where your lender is going to be spending their time. Now, I should have mentioned that this template that I'm going to be going through here is available for free down in the description of the video, no strings attached, because it's only going to be as good as the information you put in it. It's pre-filled with kind of a fictitious example to give you something to reference, but you're going to want to obviously rewrite that with your own words, own numbers. But let's get into it here and let's learn what this is going to look like. Okay, so first off, we've got our executive summary. Now, your executive summary, think of it as like the cover letter for a resume, for a job application. You're kind of given the highlights of, less than 1 page. What's the retail business going to be? Where's it going to be located? What's it going to offer? You can see in here, there's like target market, a snapshot of the financial projection. So like, what is your initial investment going to look like? What's your startup costs going to look like? How are you going to fund that? Is that going to be a loan or are you going to put it in, get investment? And then if there are other owners, definitely include that here. So not one of the key points yet, but that's just a quick summary of that. And then your business description is kind of an extension of that. So maybe you can see here, we got products and services, a mission statement, unique selling proposition. A lot of that might sound like filler text. But one thing, actually, we'll do key point 1 that I would include in here. It might come up later in the business plan at the end as well, but that's going to be relevant industry experience. Now, a retail business can be many things, right? In this business plan example, it is like a clothing boutique. You have trendy threads, but that could be a video game store. It could be a cigar shop. It can be a tire store. It can be anything. So what you need to have relevant experience in, I would say in two different ways. One, what relevant experience do you have in the industry of what you're selling? So if it's a clothing boutique in this example, what kind of experience do you have around a fashion industry, around clothing, around selling clothes? And then the other type of experience is what type of experience, if any, around retail and around managing a store and managing a team and shifts and that whole thing. So your lender's going to want to see that you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. And if you don't have that experience, do you have a partner in the business that does bring that experience? And if your partner doesn't have that experience, do you have any key employees lined up, like a manager or a general manager or someone like that that is that has been there, done that, and is going to be reliable in the industry. So when it comes to what you're selling, I would say I would have a recommendation that that's more important, because you can always hire someone that's good at running a store. But if you have an expertise in the thing you're selling or the type of thing you're selling, that's going to be a little bit more intangible, a little bit more invaluable. So that's going to be important to have. So definitely highlight that here, either between the business description or your executive summary, probably more your business description, about your ownership experience or your experience in this industry, your team's experience, so that your lender doesn't have any questions there. All right, moving along to your market analysis. This is going to bring us to key point number 2. The point of the market analysis is we are trying to demonstrate that there's an opportunity for there to be room in the market for your business, that you're going to be able to come in and capture part of that customer base. So we want to make sure that the market where you plan to open up, since this is retail, we're talking, you're going to have a physical presence, a storefront. And now we'll talk about, obviously you can have an e-commerce presence, and you should if you can, but we're talking retail, we're talking brick and mortar location to in a specific location. Is that area oversaturated with what you're going to be offering? We want to make sure that that's not the case. We want to make sure that there's something, there's people, other things that are going to bring your target customer to your storefront. And you might be asking, how can I know that? How can I do that type of research if I don't have tons of extra money and I can't hire someone to do an elaborate market research study? Totally understand that. So here's just some quick advice on maybe how you can do that a little bit. So let's do some really simple examples. Go to Google. So I live in the Indianapolis area. There's a city just outside Indianapolis called Fishers, which is like a suburb. It's about 300,000 people, and that's where I'm going to open up my clothing boutique, okay? And so I did a quick Google search, clothing boutiques near me, because I'm located in the Fishers area, and I can kind of see what I'm working with here. Obviously, if I'm native to the area or local to the area, I have an idea of what boutiques exist where, but maybe you don't know all the ones that exist. So my recommendation is make sure you know every single boutique competitor within 10 miles of you. Now, as I mentioned with retail, that can mean a lot of different things. So let's focus just on clothing boutiques. Okay, now within clothing boutiques, we've got some subsections of that. Do we have women's clothing boutique? Do we have even men's clothing boutique? Maybe you have age subsets of those. So you want to have a complete list of all the boutiques that you're going to be up against. Even more so than that, which ones specifically are you going to be overlapping in the things that you're selling and who you're selling to, because you don't want that to be oversaturated. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. And is your desired area, like, does it have sufficient drive-through traffic? Does it have sufficient walkable traffic? Are there other attractions close by? That might be important to know for a boutique. Until you get some recognition, people might not be aware enough to come directly to your store. So you might need to be close to a walkable set of restaurants, other stores that maybe aren't competitors, or maybe even competitors, maybe other boutiques. You want to set up shop right next to them, so when people come to a shopping outing, that they're just walking down the sidewalk and they're going to hit all the stores. So that's something to keep in mind. We need to make sure it's not oversaturated, but that there are these existing attractions that are going to bring your target customer to you, rather than have to single you out and drive directly to you, which is still possible, but that's going to take a lot more aggressive marketing strategy, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So now another thing you can do for a quick market assessment, this is another free tool, another Google tool. You can create a free Google AdWords account, come down to tools, go to Keyword Planner. Now this allows you to see search volumes. So when people go to Google or Google Maps and they're searching for these things, how frequently are they searching for them? So I have my location set to Fishers, Indiana, which is where we're opening our boutique. And then I want to know, how often are people searching boutique near me, clothing boutique near me? Now, this is going to do a few helpful things for us. One, it's going to show us how often are people searching for that. That might be helpful from planning if you're going to do advertising or social media or Google advertising. The second important thing it's going to show us is the trend, okay? So now we can see 3-month change and a year-over-year change. So I'm going to be focused on these numbers. Let's see here. Boutique near me is decreasing. Okay, I wonder why that is. Clothing boutique near me, increasing, up 100%. Okay, so that's good. That means we know the market is expanding. The customer base is expanding in Fishers, which is not the only sign we need to know that there's a market for us, but that is a good sign. If that's not contracting, then we can assume that customer base is growing and they likely can support more boutiques. And then obviously you can see this is going to give us more ideas on wedding boutiques, women's boutiques, designer boutique, plus size boutique. So that can help you kind of refine. If you have a really specific niche within that, you can see what the trend is for that. So helpful tool here. You can even see how competitive is it on the advertising for keywords around that. And then these don't have enough search volume to tell you the typical range, but if these had more popularity, it would tell you the bid range there. If it doesn't give you a bid recommendation, that usually means it's pretty cheap. That's good news. Now let's go back over to the business plan. Next up, we have the marketing plan. And this is going to bring us to our third key point, which is customer acquisition. So in the market analysis, we talked about, does the customer base exist? Is there room to win some of those customers? And we said, yes, okay, we've proven our point. We included that information in the business plan. Now, the second point to that is, how are you going to get them into the store? How are you going to acquire those customers? Standard business plan is going to say, we're going to have a website. You can even see it here. We're going to do some advertising. We're going to do some promotions. We're going to have a pricing strategy. We're going to have a website. Yes, that's great. And that's expected to be in there, but that's not going to make your business plan shine. What's going to make your business plan shine is a thing called traction. You want to demonstrate that you already have some momentum. You have a potential customer base that you've already tapped into. They're going to be customers when you open. That's music to a lender's ears, that they know and they've seen that you've done the work to have some existing support base that's going to pick the business up right when it opens and carry that on a little bit. So some examples to do that. So we're going to be a clothing boutique in my example. Let's talk about trying to do some pop-ups or limited run sales at a farmer's market or online on an Etsy store or something like that, right? Now that maybe I've been doing that as a side hustle or whatever that is. But some building a little bit of momentum on people know my business name. They're buying the things that I'm selecting. There's some validation there of the style that I'm selling. That's a good thing to see. So any sales numbers you can include from that are great. Some other creative ideas might be like collecting pre-signups from a founders club. If you know people locally that you want to be involved with the store, you can get them to sign up and you can give them a discount for the first year for being part of the Founders Club. So the best thing you can do to demonstrate traction is get actual sales, some example sales that you can include in your business plan. The second best thing you can do is just get names, get people signed up, because that means they know what you're doing. They're aware of what you're doing. They're going to be tuned into what you're doing. And two, they're interested in buying things from you. That is so important to a lender. If you can demonstrate, wow, they've already actually done some of the work to identify a customer base here, that's a really, really important thing to do. So include that type of information. Of course, you want to include, we're going to have a website. These are the social media platforms we're going to be on. If you can start building a local following on your social media channel and a tribe there, that's great. Include that in your marketing plan. But the key thing to keep in mind there is you can demonstrate traction or momentum before you get those doors open. Moving along here, operations plan. This is another good layout or another good section where you can elaborate on that industry relevant experience, the team experience, to put your lenders' fears at ease that you know what you're doing or getting yourself into. But again, include all of the information here. This shown here, I'm not going to say this is one of the key highlights because I feel like this is pretty expected. Okay, now the big one, financial plan and financial projections. So obviously it might sound a little biased because we provide financial projections, but this really is the most important part of your business plan. Now included in here, we've got some example snapshots of like your startup fund totals, how that's going to be broken down. We've got our projections here. So across 5 years, now this says starting in 2020, obviously I'm recording this already into 2023, but you can have a snapshot of your revenue, your profitability there, some retail specific and e-commerce specific details, breaking down average order sizes, conversion rates, sales growth here. Got some key ratios, and then we've got a 5-year financial pro forma for an income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. Now, if you're a startup and you're trying to get funding, you will absolutely need to have financial projections. They may only need to see 2 years or 3 years. Some want to see 5 years. So 5 years is kind of the conservative way to go. Now, kind of a shameless plug here. We actually offer a retail financial projection template. Makes it very easy to create all those things I just showed you completely on your own. So show you it really quickly here. Very easy to put in the assets you're going to need to purchase, your startup, some of the bigger startup costs. Are you going to have any investment, personal investment? Are you going to have any loans? And then based upon the way you fill out the projections, it's actually going to tell you like, yeah, you've got enough cash already identified, or this is how much you're going to need to cover your losses till you break even, to cover your desired purchases. It'll help you actually calculate your revenue here. So this enables you to have many stores, 7, 8, 9 store locations, but this is great for just even planning one. But if I was dreaming big and saying, I'm going to open 5 stores, I'm going to open up one every year, I can outline that here, right? It's going to open in month 13, month 25. Going to detail how many visitors I expect, conversion rates of those visitors, how many products is the average person going to buy. I can outline my store kind of catalog. What product or categories are we going to have here? When are we going to launch those products? What's the cost of those products? What are we going to sell it for? How popular are they in comparison to other products? And then the same thing for e-commerce and the associated costs there. Now we can put in our operating expenses. So this is going to be like your store rent and if you're going to pay for marketing and that kind of stuff. And then lastly, if you're going to have any salaried employees, and your owner's dividends here, your owner's draws, you can have those included. Now, that's going to produce all of these nice charts and graphs for you automatically. The financial statements I already mentioned to you, both in annual format and monthly format, which your lender is going to love you for. I promise you that. Okay, so that's a quick plug. And if you stick with me to the end of the video, I'll give you a promo code on that. The template's less than $100, so it's very cheap. I promise you it's going to be worth it. It was built by our very own CPA in-house, so certified public accountant. That's the best you can get when it comes to accounting services. And you would normally have to pay them thousands of dollars to create your projections. So using a template by one is best case. Now, highlight number 3 isn't just financial projections. Financial projections should be expected in your business plan. The key point about the financial projections, though, is that they need to be realistic and they need to be within industry norms. And now you might, again, say, well, how am I supposed to know what's realistic and what is normal for the industry? Go to Google, search it. So I already pointed out back on, to use these projections as an example, we've got some key ratios. We've got some key terminology here. Look those up. What is the average revenue for a clothing boutique, right? What is the average revenue for a video game store? What is a typical profit margin for a clothing boutique? So even just showing a quick example, what is a typical profit margin for a boutique? Net profit is around 10%, high margin 20%, low margin 5%. Okay, let's go back and check that against my projections. Now, something to note is retail is expensive up front, right? You got to make an investment in the space, building a customer base. And so it's very common to have a loss for the first year or two, okay? But then once you break even, hopefully you become a staple in that location. You've got an online sales going now. So now you can see we did find that recommended range, and then it starts to get a little bit high. Now that's okay. 3 years out, it's okay to be a little bit high for that to be inflated. You don't have a crystal ball to say what it's going to look like 5 years from now. That's simple advice. Look up those specific key numbers in that terminology for your industry and just find things to compare against to kind of double check your projections. Okay, now following this through, this has appendices at the end for any additional attachments and a closing, but we are still missing one key point, and that goes for particularly if you're trying to get a loan for your business, and that is a demonstration of skin in the game. Now, what is skin in the game, you might ask? And that is showing that there's mutual risk, right? If your lender is going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're taking a risk on that investment. You can't not share in that risk with them. If you go to buy a house and you're trying to get a mortgage for that house, they're going to expect a down payment, 10, 20%. They're also going to have a lien on that house. So if you default on that loan, the bank keeps the house and you lose your down payment. Okay, so it's a very similar concept. You go to the bank and you say, I need $100,000 to start my business. They'll say, okay, we can give you 80, but you got to put in 20. In addition to that, they are going to want collateral. Okay, so if you're buying a building, they're going to take the building as collateral. If you're renting the building, we got to give some other collateral. Okay, inventory isn't going to cut it. It's going to need to be a title to a free and clear car. It's going to be a second mortgage. It's going to be something of worth to you personally. And, when I was a lender, you would hear all the time people come in and they'd say, okay, I received the advice. I need to keep my business and my personal stuff separate from a liability perspective. And I say, that's great advice when it comes to your bank account and your bookkeeping. Keep your finances separate from each other. However, when it comes to getting a loan, that separation doesn't exist. You won't receive the funding you're looking for without committing personally and the business, together. Okay, so I just want to set that expectation for you. The lender's not doing this to try and wreck and control your life. They're doing it to mitigate their risk, to see how committed you are to what you're doing, and you're going to see it through. So that's the retail business plan breakdown for you. Again, this business plan, free template available down in the description. I've also linked the financial projection template down there. You may have already seen it, but I'm going to give you a 20% discount code right here. If you use PH20BP, you can get the retail projection template for 20% off, which is a great deal for that. I've linked it a few times in here. There's also a complete video walkthrough of how to fill that template out, but our team is here. We're live. We're available to answer questions and help you fill that template out as well. So if you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. And hope you have a great day. Thanks.